In this video, we are going to discuss about React context in detail. To know when to use this React context, we must understand about how prop drilling works in React. Let's see a simple example. Consider we are going to build this React app. So in this app, we have a header. So in header, we have three different menus: menu 1, menu 2, and menu 3. So consider this app is actually accessible for all the users, but only for paid users, we are going to enable this menu 3. So for all other users, this menu will be disabled. Okay, let's start building this one. So this is our base app. So first, let's create a component called header.jsx. So in the header, we are going to create one header. So I'm going to name our app as my app. So now we are going to create one more file called menu. So const menu. So in this menu, we are going to create a nav. So within this nav, we are going to have UL. So this menu 1, menu 2, and menu 3. So now we are going to include our menu component in our header. Then we are going to include our header in our main app. Okay. This is our header component. Okay. So if you see, right, so this menu 3 is actually by default it is enabled. So now we are going to have that logic that so this menu will be enabled only for set of users who are paid users, and for others this menu 3 will be disabled. So how actually we can do? So for now we are going to consider we will be getting one flag is paid user, and I'm going to have one class name. So if it is paid user, then it will be active. For others, it will be disabled. So by default, this paid user is flag is not getting passed. So this menu is disabled. Okay. So in our app.js, we are going to create one button. So that button, actually, we are going to assume that on click of that button, we are just going to toggle between paid user state and non-paid user state. So first let's create one state. First is paid user, set is paid user, state of false. Okay. So we are going to have one function toggle user state. Is paid user. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create one button. So this button, if the user is a paid user, we are going to write I'm a paid user. Otherwise, I'm not a paid user. Unclick. We are going to call this toggle user state. Okay. So now we are going to pass this state to our header component. And we are going to accept that prop. And we are going to pass that prop to menu component. Okay. So now by default, the user is not a paid user and this menu is disabled. As soon as I click, so now the user state turned to a paid user and that particular, so this paid user will become true and we are passing that value to header prop. So from header component, we are passing that value to menu. So in the menu, this will become true and the status will become active. So when you click on this button again, then again the user state will get updated and this menu gets disabled. If you see in this app.js, right? So we have this paid user flag and we are passing it to header component, and from the header component, we are passing it to menu component. So this is called as prop drilling. So basically from the parent, we are passing that prop to a child component. So this is one simple example where from app, we are passing the value 2 levels down, right? It can actually vary till n levels. So that means you can pass till say 5 to 10 component as well, child components. But in this use case, the header component is just a pass through. That means, so this particular flag, right, is paid user is required only in the menu component, and we are not consuming this is paid user value in our header. But since we need to pass that value to menu component, we are passing all the way from all the childrens. So this is one such use case where React context will be helpful. So this is very simple example. So we can pass this value to header and we can pass this to menu. But in case if we have 10 nested components, right? Then just for the children to consume that prop, we need to pass this prop value for all the childrens. So how actually we can use React context in this case, right? So first we need to create one context. So I'm going to create one folder called context. So here I'm going to create as membership context. So first we are going to import create context. So now what we are going to export const member context to create context of false. So this is our custom name. So basically in our components, we are going to access our context using this name only. So this is a custom name. This can be whatever name we want to give for this particular context. And this is the default value. So in our use case, by default, the user will be a non-paid user. So for that use case, we are giving it as false. So now in our app, we are going to wrap. So member context dot provider. So in the context, there are two different properties. So one is provider, the other one is consumer. Since provider is the one actually which provides the value for this particular context. So if we wrap this app and header components, right? So all the app and header components will be able to access the value from this member context. So if you don't want to provide this context for the app, right, we can directly wrap only for header also. So it's up to us to decide what all the components can consume the data from the context. So now we want to pass this value. So is paid user. So now we can remove this value from header component, and in the header component we can remove, and we don't need to pass the value to menu component as well. So in the menu component, what we can directly do, const is paid user use context of member context. So now if you see, we are not passing that paid user state in the header, and we are not passing that value to our header component and to menu component as well. So directly, as soon as we click this button, right, the state will get updated. Once the state is getting updated, the value in the context will get updated. So directly in our child component, we are reading that context and we are using this value. So in this case, actually, whatever value we are passing, right, is paid user. So this is a Boolean value, and that value will get passed to this particular variable is paid user, and it will get used in this particular menu component. So it is up to us to decide. So what value we need to set in the context. So it can be an object or it can be an array or whatever value we want to set, right? So we can set it in the context.